Headed into Chattanooga, Tennessee, we find our way to the north side of the city and stumble upon another Northgate Mall. It seems that the name Northgate carries a curse, as every Northgate that I am familiar with is either dying or struggling. What's Chattanooga's story? Let's step inside and find out. Long ago, before the mall was conceived, there were plans to build a drive-in movie theater on the land. However, those plans were pushed aside in favor of a shopping mall, the mall opening up in 1972 and the project being spearheaded by Arlen Shopping Center Group, which later became CBL and Associates. Original anchors would include Sears, JCPenney, and an early form of Miller's. The mall would serve as northward competition against Eastgate Mall, which is now converted into a business center. The mall would do relatively well over the years, despite some changes in ownership. While who owned the mall isn't exactly clear through the 80s and 90s, General Growth Properties would get a hold of the mall in the early 2000s. Before that, though, the mall would undergo renovations and expansions in 1991 and further renovations in 1997. While this was happening, Miller's would be going through changes of its own, becoming a Hess's in 1988 and then a Proffitt's in 1992. And in 2006, Proffitt's would sell out to Belk, and Belk would remain in location as of the making of this video, with a secondary home store included. Around 2005, Carmike Cinemas would open a new movie theater on the property, and the building would serve as an outparcel with 14 screens. Around the same time, a food court was proposed to be built in the place of a bookstore called Book Gallery. Unfortunately, these plans had fallen through, and no food court was ever built. However, minor renovations were held around the same year, and then again in 2008. 2009 had a rather serious side story that involves a crash into the Sears store. A woman had jumped a curb in her car near Sears as she entered the parking lot and ended up crashing into the southwest corner of the building. The car had ended up creating a hole in the building, exposing a storage room inside. Unfortunately, the woman did not survive the crash. Rest in peace. Northgate Mall would be sold back full circle to CBL and Associates in September 2011 for the low price of $11.5 million. And in 2013, the mall would undergo a major renovation which would ultimately blandify the mall. And outside, a new strip center was built at the edge of the mall property, featuring TJ Maxx, Ross Dress for Less, and Michaels. Around the same time, Old Navy announced that it was coming into the mall. And then came the mall's first serious problem. JCPenney announced it was closing in January 2014 and would follow through after its closing sale in June that year. So far, there has not been a new tenant to fill in that space, as colorful walls and offset televisions cover the interior's darkened storefront. And finally, in 2018, as inline tenants began to dwindle, Sears announced that it would be closing as part of the bankruptcy filings, beginning its liquidation sales shortly after November, and finally, it would close in early 2019. Later on in 2019, a joint venture between Southport Capital and CBL would announce plans to purchase the JCPenney space in an effort to redevelop it. Plans include demolishing the old Penny's building and building in its place restaurant space and mixed-use tenants. And now, 2020. 2020 is difficult to talk about thanks to politics and rampant censorship just for saying the name of what has caused all malls to close across the nation for well over a month. However, because of it, we are seeing a number of businesses forced to close down stores that may be considered bad performers or even file bankruptcy entirely. While Northgate Mall is open once more, there is no telling what kind of havoc this event has caused and what kind of aftershocks it would carry to the system. So all we can really do is wait and see. Modern malls like these never really do much for me. While it isn't god-awful ugly, it does absolutely nothing to be attractive in my eyes. Beyond a handful of admittedly cool-looking storefronts, there's just nothing that speaks out to me about this mall. It's just there. It's like a third cousin with his face obscured in the family photo. You just don't care. And when you see Sky City's photos on this mall before the renovations, it just makes that feeling worse. Anyway, I don't want to hang out at this mall for much longer, but nonetheless, I do hope you enjoyed a look at another Northgate Mall. I have yet another, somewhat cooler looking Northgate in the works, so do subscribe for that if you haven't already. Additionally, links to Ko-fi and social media that I partake in can be found in the description. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt, wishing you and the Northgate Mall farewell and good luck in the raging storm.